Peace, y'all. Welcome to the Reprioritizing Self YouTube channel where we discuss tips, strategies, and the real ish that comes with reprioritizing ourselves in this society. I am Kiara, a healer and trauma healing coach.
And I am Larisha, counselor, wellness facilitator, and founder of wellness brand With Love LC. And we are your co-hosts. Whoop whoop. So stick around to the end of this episode to catch our crystal of this episode, affirmation, and journal reflection question to support you in your healing journey. Make sure you hit subscribe, hit the notification button, and smash the like button if you haven't yet. We're so happy that you're here.
All right, y'all, we getting into the last episode that we're going to be discussing the fire element. We're wrapping up our exploration of fire. As a reminder, this season is all about the four elements and how we heal with the four elements. So we're going to be getting into what fire does for us in our healing journey. So fire is all about tapping into boldness, energy, enthusiasm, courage, and vitality. Fire reminds us of our capacity for passion, transformation, and renewal. In this episode, we're going to be diving into anger and rage, from our earliest recollections to practices for reprioritizing ourselves and expressing our anger through the fire element. So let's get into it.
Yes, let's get into it. Such a juicy, juicy topic. I feel like we don't hear enough about anger, so I'm really excited about today. And so, y'all, as we do when we get started, we do our check in question. So, Kiara, we want to know what areas of your life are heating up right now and how?
Areas of my life that are heating up. I think that right now I am in a process with myself and in my family where we are exploring, I say willingly exploring and kind of being forcibly exploring change and change within my body and change in our family dynamics. So I feel like that is like heating, warming. There is maybe even some burning of like old ways and just ways that we have visioned our life. And so I think for me, it feels a little like it is exciting, but it also is a little scary. Doing things differently, thinking about being a family in a different way, and being responsible for other people. So there's a lot of things coming up in terms of change. So I do kind of think recalling back to our episode with Yuki, like that burning down of things to kind of build up. I feel like that fire is kind of starting to encompass the old ways and starting to make room for something new. So that's me. How about you? What's heating up for you, Larisha? What's going
Wow.
on?
Your share brought up a lot for me. What I was initially thinking that was heating up, the weather. I mean, the weather, the season. I feel like it's time to be outside. Like, I want to. So I feel like social. I think Gemini, and we'll talk more about air later, but Geminis are known to be communicative and social. And so for me, I feel like something about this season and this heat is very much making me want to be outside, like just in the weather, in the elements, in community. And so I feel like that area is heating up. I feel like a lot of the year I'm like, I don't want to say isolated, but kind of like doing my own thing to myself, kind of just like working on myself. So when it gets hot and warm and and things, I feel more like, okay, I'm ready to go outside and practice all that I've been working on
Socialize.
myself, socialize, be in community, get out there. And a piece that what you shared in your check-in around burning ideas of what I thought things would look like, or what I thought a timeline would be, or what a person would look like, or what an experience would look like. Really burning that down and allowing myself to be present, and continuing to remind myself to be present and enjoy what's here now, while also, of course, having the goals and the things that I want to experience. And at the same time letting burn, like, it has to look like this, it has to be like that, it has to, letting all that bye, like, constantly doing that reminding too. So that's what I feel like is heating up and
Yes.
right now.
I love that because, yeah, I think that we're going to talk about like childhood stuff today, but like even just thinking about the ways that we thought life should be, go, how we're supposed to do it, what that looks like for us, I think is constantly changing. So I love that like continuation of being and checking in with being present, to make sure that you're aligned with like, what do you want? How do you want to go forward? How do you want to be and show up, and not, falling into those old expectations or the things that we thought, we had to do based off of just like, growing up and the people that were around us and the models. So I love it. We are, we're in the process.
Yes.
We doing the things. Things are shifting and changing, and it's right in time because we wrapping up this fire and we getting into the air next episode. So, um, we on the journey.
Yes, we are on the journey. And so let's get into it. You mentioned at the tail end a part about the models and what we've seen and how we grew up. So, our first question that we're going to be addressing this episode is, what is an early recollection of your own experience with rage and anger? How might adults have role modeled that around you or not? What did that look like for you?
Mhm. Yeah, it's so interesting. When we decided on this question, I was like, "Oh, I don't even know." Like, I think the first thing that came up for me was that I didn't have a lot of permission to experience or express rage and anger, and that shaped how I did and how I thought, felt about it. So, for myself, I know when I was younger, and even now, still, when I get angry or mad about something or frustrated, I usually cry. And I cried then and I cry now. And it's like I can feel the fire in my chest and my body, and I could then as well. But like the only way that I was able to express that was through tears. I think because of the energies around me. Like it wasn't safe for me to, explode or yell or do things like that. So I, learned how to express that through emotion, more like tears and sadness. And I think I saw that in women around me as well, particularly just in how they were expressing themselves. It felt very much like a masculine energy was able to yell and shout and stomp and huff and puff. Um, and I never saw that in the women around me. And so for me, it was like, okay, I remember the earliest one I was thinking about was like I was in second grade and I got in trouble. My teacher called my house and I didn't do anything. Like I literally did not do anything that day. And so I was so upset. I was like, what? Like, why would you call? I didn't do anything. Like, I was good. I did not get in trouble. I don't know what she's talking about. And of course, as a child at that time, especially, like the parents was not trying to hear that. Like the teacher called the school, called my house, like it's a wrap. You're in trouble now, and like it didn't even matter what I said. So I was so pissed off at my teacher. Like, why would you do that to me? You don't even know what my home life is like, first of all, and you setting me up for failure. Okay. and probably more than what you think you are doing. So I was really upset about that. But I wasn't, I didn't go cuss the teacher out. I didn't go and, even address it with her because I was just scared. Like I didn't want to be in further trouble. I didn't want to, um, I just got put in my place. Like this is a child's place, and when the adults and the teachers say this is just what it is. So I think I learned early then that like, well, at that time it was like, your voice doesn't really matter. And so I think that shaped some of the ways that I would express myself as I got older, what was safe for me to do so, what wasn't. And I don't remember many times until probably about end of high school, early college, where I was like rageful and yelling and physically aggressive as well. Because I just didn't know how to hold all of it. Like it's one thing to have anger as a child, there's some particular things there, but like as you're getting older and there's like bigger things and more important things that matter, and your livelihood, your safety, things like that, which is also relevant as a child, but you just become more aware of it. And when you're older, I was finding myself lashing out in ways that wasn't familiar to me, but also were from the models that I had. So expressing more of the masculine energy as I got older. So I don't think I had really great models of how to manage anger and rage, because there was a fear, I think, in the people around me, and a gender binary that was really enforced of how masculinity shows up and how femininity shows up. So that's me. that's what I'm remembering and recalling. And even still to this day, like I'm a crier more than I am a yeller. I still do yell. Don't get me wrong. It might be both, but yeah, it's more expressed through emotions and sadness and tears.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. I'm like reflecting on my childhood too. Like, yeah, like the way that it shows up in your household, like you said, was the ways that how does it feel safe to be angry? What does it look like when my loved ones are angry? How does my environment respond to anger and rage? Are very very important. So thank you so much for sharing that. And just a tiny bit that came up for me around that. My anger, how I witnessed it, wasn't like loud, like how you mentioned. It was never loud, but you could feel it. Like within my household, if somebody was mad, it was like, even if there wasn't a word said, you can feel the energy. So for me growing up, a lot of ways I would express my anger would be silence, but like not really silence, like maybe um, the way I'm dealing with something. So like you'll hear it in my movement or in my breathing, or it might be short. Um, but definitely just not very much expressing like I'm angry, more so like embodying it in like in ways that aren't necessarily healthy, which we'll talk more about. But yeah, thank you for sharing that around
Mm-hmm.
what you witnessed and experienced.
Thank you. No, thank you. Um, so you talked about silence as a mode that you went to as a child. I'm wondering how you have learned or relearned how to process your anger as an adult, if anything has changed.
Yeah, this is something that is a work in progress always. But stemming back to my childhood and that learned behavior of silence or internalizing, I can very much say that I still navigate anger with internalizing. And since I know that now, I've shifted into being more mindful about how I kind of display it. So identifying the source, so being mindful of the source. So when I think about when I was younger, um, if someone was angry in the household, we would know they were angry, but we wouldn't know why. And then when you're younger, you assume it's you, or you're like, I'm gonna stay out the way because I don't know, like I'm not trying to get caught in the crossfire of that rage.
Exactly.
So for me as an adult, I'm like, I don't want to do that to my loved ones. I don't want to do that to the people around me that I care about. Like if I'm angry and it's because of like something that has nothing to do with them or something that happened at work or somebody in traffic, just anything like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want them to feel that. Or if they do, they'll know like that it wasn't them.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
what I've really been working on is naming. If I know I'm going to be in a space with my loved ones, like naming, like, oh, this happened, or like I'm frustrated about this, or this made me mad today. And I think that has helped so much, like naming exactly what it is that is frustrating or is causing anger. And if I'm unable to name it right away, one thing I've been practicing is like taking a step away, taking a step back. I know one thing that I'm thinking about specifically is a situation that happened at work with the coworker, and I didn't like how they communicated with me, and so the way I responded was like, okay, let me take a step back and then communicate. Like I don't think you had this intention. At the same time, like this is how it felt, and how can we go forward? So really sitting now, relearning anger as like it's natural, it's going to happen, it's nothing wrong with it, nothing to be ashamed of. Is how am I responding? How am I holding it in my body? How am I releasing it? How am I communicating to those around me what my needs are right now? So that's been mostly what I've been consciously working on, like regrounding myself, naming the emotion, taking a step back, deep breaths, revisiting. Like if I can't name it in the moment, like I mentioned before, taking a step back to collect myself and then be like, okay, I can name it now. So
Mm-hmm.
that level of knowing myself and learning myself has given me a lot of tools to navigate age of anger. And sometimes I just be mad and I need to like get it out, but I'm gonna do
Yeah.
it in a way that's safe for me and the people around me. Like I might be blasting a song, or I might, be dancing or
Mm-hmm.
something, scribbling, journaling
Yeah.
hard.
Right, exactly.
It's
You'll
gonna
be in
get
that journal. So real. Oh my gosh, so real. I mean, I think this just it's such a mature way of handling that. And, the pause really resonates with me. I always want to pause more, but I don't. I'm just like, that was so hard for me to just take the pause before I start saying stuff or getting into it too deep. But what I have done for myself is like when I do get some time like to myself and quiet, I'll just be like, it's okay. You've got this. It's okay. You got this. You know your tools, you know your practices, and it's like a reminder that like I don't have to let it kind of hijack the rest of my day, my body, my, thoughts. I can have my feelings about it and also like know that it's going to pass at some point. Like this is not going to be always. Um, and, I think that the one thing that I've been thinking about as we've been talking about this, but haven't said yet is like the piece of us as Black women, femmes, like anger is not an emotion that we are encouraged to express openly, right? Like there's so many different stereotypes of Black women and attitudes and angry Black women and all this stuff that I think we all internalize, not we all, a lot of us internalize that, in ways that we don't even consciously we aren't consciously aware of a lot of times. And so I think it's really a beautiful practice to like give ourselves that permission to feel, give ourselves that permission to be human. Anger is a human emotion. It's something that we all experience and feel. And so, how can we just give ourselves a little more grace when we're feeling that? I think that is one nugget I just want to leave for all of us is like,
Yes.
we are able to be human, and some places it's not safe for us to do that, and I want to acknowledge that as well, right? Like, we have to keep ourselves safe, and we do that by some of these ways. I wish I knew the exact quote, and I should have grabbed it before we started, but um Dr. Thelma, she is somebody I follow, I follow on Instagram. She always has nuggets of wisdom, so beautiful. And she's talking about a person who came into a session with her, and the woman would be considered like having an attitude or like angry. And she was just like, this is somebody who has been, I want to say she said something like disempowered or some sort of like dysregulated or something. It was just so like so much grace there given to that person that they're just not coming in with an attitude just because. They're coming because they have a lot of things, on their plate or going on, or they're like managing something big, or they haven't been seen or taken care of, and so I just want to give us all of that permission, to feel our feelings, whatever that is, and to know that that is a natural part of being human, and that we have the right to feel those in a safe way, in a contained way that we feel safe doing that. So yeah, I just want to say that that was something that's coming up.
Yes. Thank you for naming that. That is so true. The stereotypes, the safety, and there's hell of stuff to be mad about. Like, can you see the things like historically right now? There's hell of stuff to be mad about. So thank you for naming that and saying that, and that ties into our final question, which you started to share. Is how can folks differentiate between healthy expressions of anger and destructive rage? And what steps can they take to cultivate healthier outlets of their emotions?
Yeah, I love that. I love this question. And I think it's going to be different for everybody, right? Like, I think the key piece or the thing I would start with for all of us is like just learning about ourselves, learning how that emotion shows up for us. How do we express, like, how do we notice when we're feeling angry or rage? Do we notice that, right? Or are we like, nope, I don't feel anger. I don't feel rage, right? I just feel sadness, or, you know, I think that we can, I think we all have a lot of room to continue to learn about ourselves and how that shows up in our bodies and our minds and our emotions and how we are with other people. So I would start there on just like learning more about yourself when you are feeling frustrated. Like, what does that feel like in your body when you're feeling like somebody said something or did something that was really rude, or cut me off, or whatever it is, right? Like, what does that feel like for us so that we can start to name that sooner for ourselves before we get into that place of destruction, if that's something that we do. I think destruction looks like damage that can't be repaired. And I'm sure many of us have said things or done things out of anger that we wouldn't have said or done if we had a little more settling. Um, if we had a moment to process, if we had a moment to think about our choice of words, our choice of actions. And so I would sit with like that pause that we named, that we've been talking about, like having a moment to pause and check in. What do I need in this moment? And not so much how can I put that out on somebody else, but like how can I actually tend and care for myself? And that might be scribbling, like you said. It might be I'm screaming into my pillow, or I'm going outside and I'm yelling, or I am um, uh, and punching my pillow. Who knows, right? It could be anything, because I think that we have to, it is a body experience. And so ways, again, safe ways that we can get that out for ourselves. Um, the other thing I will say about like the healthier outlets, I think having people that you feel safe to talk to, I think having relationships where you can say, hey, that actually really didn't land well with me. Like, I'm feeling this is coming up for me. And having a place to practice that with someone who is like truly loving and caring about you and won't judge you or leave you for your expression of that, so that you know, like, okay, I can do this. I can practice this with where in places that it feels safe. So then when I am out in other spaces, that I have tools, I have ways to express that in a way that feels also safe for me. But again, I just want to acknowledge that we all are the experts of our bodies, of our experience, of our environments. And so lean into what you know about that. Lean into, like, don't feel like this is like a blanket thing. Everybody has to apply this. We all are different. We all need different things. But I think it's important for us to learn about ourselves, how we express that, and then have places where we can actually process with others. Like, we always are here, we're talking about healing together, and it happens together. We heal in community, we don't heal by ourselves. And so how can and where can I do that with other people, where I do feel safe and held, where I can be in my fullness of whatever that feeling is. And then I can also be that for other people, right? Like, I can return that favor and learn in their own processing of emotions as well. Like, just by looking and seeing their experience, there's lessons to be learned in that as well. So that's what I would say. How about you? You got any other nuggets?
I mean, you shared all the nuggets. I'll just echo what you said. Really, having that building that learning with you within yourself and recognizing it. What does it feel like in my body? How does it show up? um, Identifying practices. I know when I first was told, I was actually getting a reading, and it came up rage practices, and I was like, rage practices? Like, what even is that? Like having healthy
Right. What
rage
is
practices
that?
before you're angry, kind of like, you have practices to keep you grounded or to keep you healthy. Having rage practices that you go to or refer to prior to rage, or in the moment. And there's one, I listened to a show, Miss Blue is their name, and it's a radio show, and she's talked about different rage practices. And one of the things that she shared was throwing a tantrum. Like, as a child, give yourself a safe space. You can have pillows around, whatever you need. You turn on the song, whatever you need, and like throw a tantrum, like how a little kid go on the floor and like, get it out. Like, you can do that as an adult. And when she said that, I was like, that's wild. But also, I tried it and it felt good. So really,
Yes.
um, practicing things that feel good or things that you're like, I never thought, or like, I didn't know punching a pillow. I feel like when it comes to rage, sometimes I know for me what comes up is like, I'm not about to punch no pillow, or I'm not about to break, like have a tantrum. Like,
Yeah.
that's so, petty or like young. And
Yeah.
a lot of times we are tapping into our inner child, like healing our inner child, letting that anger be an emotion that we can express. And since again, a lot of us grew up, and me personally grew up not seeing it displayed in a way where it was being processed through, like all these rage practices feel foreign,
Yes.
and I'm like, what is it? What even is this?
Right. Exactly.
So again, leaning into that learning and that curiosity, and that childlike energy. Like, if I want to throw a tantrum, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go home in
Do
my
it. I'm
safe
gonna get
space
my
and throw me a little
feelings.
tantrum. I might crump, whatever that looks like, it's gonna get out. So yeah, those are the main things. And again, having the community piece is so important. So that safe space where you feel held and seen, and sometimes that's not with our family. So also having that courage to seek resources, and connect with folks that you feel aligned with, that can see you and hold you, um, and you can learn from. So yeah, that's all I would add to that.
I love it. Yes. Yeah. Have a tantrum, y'all. It is okay. Do it in a place where you can just do you, and let the inner child feel the feels. Let the inner child feel the feels. So I love that. That was really a beautiful time to reflect on anger, rage. I know I personally don't do that very often. I can't remember the last time I was really like thinking about how am I processing this. One thing I will say too, and studying herbalism, when we hold anger and rage inside and we don't have places to express that, it impacts our liver. So if you have liver health stuff with processing, that could be an invitation to check in on how you're processing your anger. And you might do some support of your liver and through your like food or herbs or teas or things that you are intaking to support you. So one other little nugget that I want to leave there. But let's get into our crystal. Y'all know how it goes. We're getting into our crystal for the episode. And so, to keep us kind of supported through this practice of expressing, experiencing, tapping in with our rage, we have the beautiful stone of amethyst. Probably very familiar to folks. This is a pretty common stone. Amethyst actually relieves stress, it dispels rage and soothes anger. It helps you to release pent up emotions and to move forward with confidence. It also supports in relieving strain, soothing irritability, and balancing mood swings. And it can boost our hormone production and relieve pain, decrease some of that stress, heartache, and it eases headaches and strengthens our intuition. So it is connected to our crown chakra. So get you some amethyst if you need some support with your rage and anger practice, your tantruming or whatever it is. You could put these around you to hold that space for you, or you could wear this. I don't remember whose birthstone this is, but this is one of the birthstones as well. So you might already have you some amethyst somewhere handy. So that is our crystal for this episode.
Yes, y'all. Tap in with your amethyst. We're going to get into our affirmation for this episode, and we read our affirmations 3 times. Our affirmation is, I release all emotions present that do not serve me. I actively choose to process my anger and protect my peace. I release all emotions present that do not serve me. I actively choose to process my anger and protect my peace. I release all emotions present that do not serve me. I actively choose to process my anger and protect my peace.
Ashe. So take that with you, put that up wherever you need it as a reminder, put it on your phone, whatever you need. And then lastly, as we always do, we've got a reflection question for you to journal about, to reflect on in whatever ways you want to do that. So our reflection question is, what practices help me to acknowledge and process my anger and rage? Right? So what are your practices, right? It might be the tantrum, it might be the pillow, it might be the yelling, it might be the talking to someone else, it might be all of those, it might be the scribble. But what is your practice that helps you to acknowledge and process that? And I think even writing that down and having it somewhere as a reminder for you, if you are one of those folks who feel like, I don't know how to process anger, or I don't know what that feels like for me, it can be a really beautiful time to journal about what that feels like, looks like for you, and then how these practices land, what's working, what's not. So I want to encourage folks to take that and use it as it is supportive. And you know what to do, y'all. Like we do this every time. We want you to come and join and be engaged in this healing with us. We healing community. We appreciate you all being in our community. We love you all. We appreciate the ways that you pour into us and you let us know what you want to hear and who you want to hear from. Please keep doing that. You'll find all the information in the comments and in our show notes below. But smash it, subscribe, and make sure you share this with your people so we can process this anger and we can take care of each other. And with that, We'll say peace, y'all. Take
Peace.
care.